Look, I want to tell you about a phone call I got a few years back. It was late, maybe 10:30 at night. My buddy Marcus calls me, and I can hear it in his voice immediately. He's buzzing, like he just found a cheat code for life. "Jake," he goes, "I figured it out. I know exactly how I'm retiring early. Dividend stocks. I'm just gonna load up, collect the checks every quarter, and never sell a single share. It's bulletproof." And here's the thing. I didn't laugh, I didn't correct him right away, because honestly, on the surface, his plan sounded pretty reasonable. It sounds reasonable to millions of people right now. But what Marcus didn't know, what most people who go down this road don't know, is that the dividend income strategy has a hidden flaw baked right into the math. And if you don't understand it before you build your portfolio, it will quietly bleed you dry while you think everything is fine. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why chasing dividend income alone can leave you worse off than doing almost nothing, the psychological trap that makes people double down even when it's not working, and the actual framework that experienced long-term investors use, one that combines income and growth in a way most dividend-only investors never consider. And the part most people miss? It's not about picking the wrong stocks. It's something happening at a level most investors never even look at. We're gonna get there. Here's what we're covering today: the real math behind living off dividends and why it's uglier than the YouTube thumbnails suggest, the psychological trap that makes smart people throw good money after bad, the tax reality that varies more than most people realize, and the layered portfolio approach that actually holds up over decades. Let's get into it. My name is Jake, and I spend way too much time thinking about personal finance and long-term investing. If you're someone who's been eyeing dividend stocks as your path to financial freedom, but you're not 100% sure you're building this thing the right way, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you out. Seriously, it helps more than you know. All right, let's go. Here's what makes the dividend trap so dangerous. It feels smart. Like, think about what dividends actually represent. Big, established companies, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, Pepsi, paying you just for owning shares in them, quarterly, like clockwork. You don't have to time the market, you don't have to sell anything, you just hold and collect. That feels like control, and after a few years of watching markets go haywire, control is what people desperately want. But here's what most people don't realize. Feeling in control and actually being in control are two very different things. Let's do some math, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. Say you've got $500,000 saved up. That's a serious number, years of hard work, and you put it into a portfolio of dividend stocks averaging a 4% yield, which is honestly pretty standard for a well-diversified dividend strategy. That gives you $20,000 a year, about $1,667 a month. Now, can you live on $1,667? Maybe, depending on where you are, but here's what nobody in the dividend hype world wants to talk about: inflation. At just 3% inflation, which is actually close to the Fed's long-run target and roughly where we've been trending in 2025 and 2026, your $20,000 in income loses about $600 in real purchasing power every single year. By year 10, that same $20,000 buys you what about $14,800 bought you when you started. Your lifestyle is shrinking, slowly, invisibly, every single year. And here's the thing most dividend investors never account for. If you're spending those dividends instead of reinvesting them, your principal doesn't grow. You're not compounding. You're standing completely still while the cost of everything around you keeps moving forward. Marcus didn't think about this, and I'd bet most people watching this right now haven't fully thought it through either. That's not a knock, it's just what the dividend content machine doesn't tell you, because dividends beat inflation over time is a much less exciting headline. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Jake, but what if I just pick higher yield funds? More income, problem solved. Yeah, this is exactly where a lot of people make the second mistake, and honestly, this one is worse than the first. When Marcus's income started feeling thin, he did exactly what felt logical. He went looking for funds advertising 8, 9, sometimes 10 or 12% yields, double-digit dividends, and his reasoning made total sense in the moment. Higher yield, more income, more cushion against inflation. Here's what they don't teach you. A high yield is often a warning sign, not a reward. Think about it this way. Yield is calculated as the dividend divided by the stock price. So if a company's stock price drops, maybe because the business is struggling, maybe because investors have lost confidence, the yield goes up automatically. The high yield isn't telling you the company is generous, it's telling you the market thinks something is wrong. Chasing a 10% yield can easily mean you're buying into a company that's about to cut their dividend entirely. And when that happens, you don't just lose the income, you lose the capital too. A double hit, all at once. Then there's the tax reality, and here's where I want to be really precise because most videos get this wrong or oversimplify it. Here's the deal. There are two types of dividend income, and the IRS treats them very differently. Qualified dividends, which is what you get from most standard US stocks you've held for at least 60 days, are taxed at the lower long-term capital gains rate. That's 0%, 15%, or 20% depending on your income level. For most middle-income investors, that's 15%. That's actually pretty favorable. But non-qualified dividends, also called ordinary dividends, are taxed at your regular marginal income tax rate. And that's where it gets painful. If you're in the 22%, 24%, or 32% bracket, every dollar of non-qualified dividend income gets hit at that rate. So what kinds of investments throw off non-qualified dividends? REITs, or real estate investment trusts, are a big one. So are certain covered call ETFs that have gotten very popular in the dividend community recently, and dividends on positions you haven't held long enough. Here's why this matters practically. A lot of the high-yield ETFs that get promoted in dividend content, the ones with the sexy monthly payouts, often distribute non-qualified income. So while your neighbor's boring index fund quietly compounds, you're getting a check every month that the IRS immediately takes a bigger bite out of. You feel like you're winning. The math says otherwise. And then there's the psychological piece. This is where it gets really interesting. When you receive dividend checks regularly, your brain does something sneaky. It interprets those payments as proof the plan is working. Positive reinforcement. You stop stress testing your portfolio. You stop asking hard questions. You develop what I'd call dividend complacency. The feeling that money is arriving, everything is fine. And that's precisely when you're most vulnerable. Because the market doesn't care how good your quarterly check felt last month.
Let me show you something that'll stick with you. Remember that $500,000 portfolio generating $20,000 a year? Now compare that to someone who takes the same $500,000 and puts it into a balanced strategy, one targeting total returns of around 7.5% annually. That's not a fantasy number. The S&P 500 has averaged roughly 11.7% annually over the last 50 years with dividends reinvested, and about 7.8% after adjusting for inflation. A blended portfolio of dividend growth and broad market exposure landing at 7 to 8% total return annually is entirely realistic over a long time horizon. At 7.5% average annual return, that same $500,000 grows to roughly $1,030,000 in about 10 years, just over $1 million. And then you start drawing income from it. Now your 4% withdrawal rate generates about $41,000 a year instead of $20,000. You waited 10 years and you've more than doubled your sustainable retirement income. That's the compounding math that dividend-only thinking makes people skip entirely. The dividend investor, still drawing $20,000 a year, maybe less in real terms after inflation, maybe nothing at all if the companies they hold cut their payouts, which, by the way, happens far more often than people in this space want to admit. In 2020 alone, over 800 publicly traded US companies, including 65 names right on the S&P 500, cut or completely eliminated their dividends. Companies that investors had called bulletproof, companies with decades of track records, gone in a matter of weeks because dividends are discretionary. They're a corporate decision made by a board of directors, not a contractual obligation to you as a shareholder. When cash flow tightens, dividends are often the first thing to go, not the last safe harbor. So what's the actual solution? How do you build a portfolio that generates income without falling into all these traps? Here's what more experienced investors actually do. And this isn't about any single magic ETF or ticker. It's about thinking in layers. Think of your portfolio like a house. You need a foundation, some structural support, a safety net, and a roof that actually grows with you over time. The foundation is your stable, high-quality dividend growth exposure, not the highest yield, the most reliable yield. From companies with strong balance sheets, consistent earnings, and a long track record of not just paying dividends, but increasing them. These are the companies that kept paying in 2020 while everyone else was cutting. Boring? Yes. Effective? Absolutely. On top of that, you want exposure that combines income with genuine price appreciation, funds that aren't just throwing off dividends but are also growing in value, quietly helping offset inflation without you even noticing it working. This is what keeps your principal from standing still. Then you add resilience, income-generating exposure that can smooth out volatility without forcing you to chase unsustainable yields. Think consistency over size of payout. And finally, and this is the piece most dividend-first investors completely ignore, you need growth. Pure, unapologetic, long-term growth exposure. Sectors that are actually moving the economy forward. Not because dividends don't matter, but because dividend income alone cannot compound your wealth fast enough to stay ahead of inflation, taxes, and 30 years of living expenses. Now here's the piece that ties it all together, and honestly, it's the most overlooked part of this whole conversation. Where you hold these investments matters almost as much as what you hold. Think about this carefully. Qualified dividends from your standard blue-chip stocks in a taxable account are taxed at 15% for most people. That's manageable. But if you're holding high-yield, non-qualified dividend ETFs, the ones with the big monthly payouts in a taxable account, you're generating an ordinary income tax bill every single month. You're working against yourself. The smarter move, put your non-qualified, higher-taxed income generators inside your tax-advantage accounts, your IRA or 401k, where that income compounds without a tax event every quarter. Let your lower-taxed qualified dividend positions sit in your taxable accounts. It sounds like boring accounting. Over 20 years, the difference easily compounds into 6 figures. Look, the dividend dream isn't wrong. Building income from your investments is a genuinely powerful idea, and there are real sustainable ways to do it. But the trap, the one Marcus fell into, the one millions of people fall into every single year, is treating dividends as a complete strategy rather than one piece of a larger plan. Dividends can be cut, and in 2020, over 800 companies proved exactly that. Inflation doesn't take a day off. Your $20,000 today becomes $14,800 of real purchasing power in 10 years at just 3% inflation. The tax picture is more nuanced than most people realize. What type of dividend, what kind of account, and what bracket you're in all matter enormously. And compounding doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about the math. The investors who actually build lasting wealth think in total return. They layer income with growth. They protect against inflation not by hoping their dividend holds, but by building a portfolio that grows faster than the cost of living. And they use tax-smart account placement as a quiet multiplier working in the background every single year. You now know something that most people who've been consuming dividend content for years still haven't fully figured out. The question is what you do with it. Start by looking honestly at your current portfolio. Ask yourself, is this built for income or is it built for wealth? Because those two things are not the same, and understanding the difference is what separates the investors who retire comfortably from the ones who run out of runway before they expected to. I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Please do your own research and consult a licensed professional before making any investment decisions. If this video gave you value, I've got one right up here that goes even deeper into building a portfolio designed to last. I'll see you there.